This is what I built for a plate. Saw a lot of people were plating them. A lot of other people were saying just weld the 2 spider gears together. Or not the 2, but the 4 corners of the spider gears, I mean. But I'm gonna probably weld them and then stick this in there anyways. So it makes sense to me that you would weld it and then want something like this in between in case it did flex or whatever. It wouldn't just crack the welds, it would have to crack this too in some way. But either way, when it explodes, I'm sure everything will go into pieces. Yeah. I didn't even measure that. I literally just cut a rectangle. So that's pretty awesome. This is my first time welding a diff, so I have no clue what I'm doing. But I think it's ready. Just welding all the spider gears together. It's pretty simple in theory. So, see what happens. It's pretty bubblegum looking now. It actually looked pretty good the first pass I did, and then I decided I wanted to go higher up on the spider gears. So now I made it look like total shit, but it has more on it now. I'm assuming that's more than enough, and even if it's not, I don't really care that much. As long as we get a few events out of it. I also have the one that's in the car still that I can weld, because this is a different one. So I'm just gonna swap them out now that this one's welded. Let's cool down a bit. We're gonna put in this very expensive CarQuest 8090, just right all over it. Pretty sure it takes about 1.5 liters or quarts, or I don't know. I'm basically gonna dump both of them in and then just drain it all out when it's on the car. I basically want to get this in tonight so I can silicone the cover on. I think that's roughly where it was. I don't know, there's a little more. That should be fine. Like I said, I'll just pull the plug and let something right out and that's in the car. So I lobbed the exhaust off. I'm gonna probably try to reuse most of this and lob that off better and then put it all back. I know a lot of people were saying that you can screw around and probably get the diff out without pulling the exhaust off, but I wanted to get rid of that muffler anyways, so I kind of just did it anyways. And then I'll drop the whole exhaust and weld that all the way around, and then that will be completely done. And then today we're gonna try to get the diff out. So I'm gonna start pulling bolts, get this brace off, and yeah. I sprayed the shit out of everything multiple times, so I assume this is gonna come out pretty good. But the way this car's gone with everything, I'm sure there'll be an issue somewhere. One at a time. And then just like that, we're finally to the last one. There's one. And there's two. You just pull the front bolts first. I have a trans jack, so I'm gonna go hit the jack now when I do that one. And the whole thing should hopefully, if the axles aren't in the way, just fall right down and out. I see why people say you have to pull a sway bar. I can see that being a total pain in the ass, but hopefully I can just wiggle it out through there. It's really just this little section that has to go past. So, see what happens when we get there. My stupid phone fell, but I was hoping I get past the sway bar, and I do believe people saying that you can get it past the sway bar without taking it off, but for all the screwing around it takes, I'm gonna try to take the sway bar off, but that bolt is pretty ugly on both sides, so I don't know what the best plan is for getting it off, or if pulling those ones are better. So I pull those ones, I don't know, I'm gonna try to get those ones in here off, but they're super ugly. So I finally gave up and cut the bolts. This side I had to cut from the inside, which is a total pain in the ass because the blade like barely fit in there. The only reason that the blade fit in there was because it was worn halfway down, and this one I managed to cut from this side. I then just hit them with a punch and they popped out. So I just have to pop this sway bar out once I put the trans jack back up. And the whole thing should come down far enough that I get the diff out. Hopefully, because I really don't want to be fighting with the shitty rusty bolts up there. And then for these ones, they're just nut and bolts. So I'll just put new nut and bolts and a lock washer in there. That's a lot more room. I think that'll do nicely. Boy, that's much falling out. Should have just done that from the start. Okay, now it's finally coming out. Well, that was way easier to get up in there. I just basically just lifted it in. But now that I kind of knew how to get it in and out, I made it way freaking easier. And this old guy, I think I'm going to probably crack it open and weld it too and just keep it as a spare. Yeah, now it's just basically button everything back up and find some nuts and bolts to put the sway bar back on. Yeah, I think that's the hard part done. It's just putting everything back together. I clean up all the bolts and everything, but honestly, most of these are virtually rust-free. So everything came out good except for the sway bar. And the axles and diff nuts are a little rusty, but really the threads are pretty good. So for how crappy this car is. So yeah, I'm just gonna button everything back up and we should be good.
One eternity later.
Well, that took a little bit longer than expected, but I found bolts, well, nuts and bolts to reattached the sway bar, and then I've also went over everything twice, and then I got the brace back in. But the weird thing was, normally it's a pain in the ass to pull subframes, but of course this one, pulling the brace off, that bolt is part of the subframe. The subframe fell down at the back the whole time I was working on things. So I kind of had to lift it all up with the trans jack to get the subframe lined back up. So it's a good thing that I have the trans jack, and the thing that didn't happen on the floor, it'd be a total pain in the ass. But everything's in, everything's double checked. I think all I have left now to do is the exhaust. For the exhaust, I'm going to put a brace in these pipes so both of them stay together and cut it off as flush as I can at the muffler, and then just delete the muffler and rebuild this section. So this is my plan, just a threaded rod there and there, and then cut that, and this pipe should stay at least close to where it is, and then it's just a matter of literally just going from there straight out to the back wherever I want it. But it will work. Okay, due to time constraints, this is kind of what I got going on. So I basically just have old school kind of blast pipes out the back, and then I have everything hung up with an exhaust rubber insulator as a spacer, and another one as a spacer here. And I'm just gonna honestly, like, it's slightly smaller pipe, I'm just gonna go straight out of it. And then I'm gonna cut those tacks, I'll weld this all the way around, and then I'll probably weld that most of the way around tonight. I don't know yet. I'm definitely not in the mood to pull the whole exhaust. It's taken way longer than expected to do that diff. So now I'm just doing some basic, like, double barrel shotgun blast pipes out the back. But yeah, this will work for now. I don't even want to show this because it's absolutely disgusting. This is what I ended up building. It'll work good enough to at least get to the event and do the stuff that we want to do, and then I'm going to cut it all back off and do it a hell of a lot better than this. Even those welds are total shit. But it's taking me longer to do the exhaust than it did do the fucking diff, so I'm pretty much just calling it how it is. At least the exhaust will somewhat come out of the back of the car. It's probably going to leak like crazy with how ugly these welds are. But again, it's midnight and we have to be up to go to the drifting event in like a few hours. That's the end of that. At least the diff is in. I don't really care about the exhaust at all. I should have just left it dumping underneath out of the back of the resonator, but whatever.